All right. Call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody here. It's interesting when you look at life and what we do in life, whether it's family, whether it's business, whether it's in government, partnerships are an integral part of what we do. Thinking to my family, my wife and I, it's a partnership of running a household, running businesses, and running a family. And it's an incredibly important partnership that we are able to do better together as a combined effort than individually. And so that partnership is excellent and is important. When it comes to business, business is also it's very valuable to have partnerships. A number of us around these tables have businesses. Some of us have partners, some of us don't. And those partners are important. They can be valuable in bringing something to the table, whether it's knowledge, whether it's skills, whether it's expertise or dollars. Those partnerships can really allow a business to flourish and do better than it would do individually. Same with government. We have partnerships, and us as a city, we have partnerships that have been valuable over the years. We have a partnership certainly with the surrounding municipalities when it comes to when we deliver certain services, whether it's fire agreements, whether it's services such as landfill, services such as planning. These are important partnerships to us as communities because we can do it better as a group and more cost-effectively and efficiently as a group and as partners than as individuals. So it's really important, and today as well, as municipalities, we met with the government and we talked about partnerships and the need for partnerships between municipalities so that we can get more done and be more effective as a group than we can individually. And so I want to encourage all of us to, no matter if it's in your personal life, whether it's in your business life, or whether it's us as government, let's continue to work for good partnerships that allow us to do more as a group than as individuals. So, thank you. We have the agenda in front of us. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Fair. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have the minutes from September 20th regular council meeting in front of us. Can I have a motion, please, to approve? Councillor Funk, second by Councillor Swagstra. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. There's no business arising from the minutes. Can I have someone make a motion to excuse Councillor Penner, please? Councillor Fair, second by Councillor Penner. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We do not have any public hearings today or delegations. We have the reports from the city manager on page 5. Mr. Warkentine.
Mr. Mayor, and for the rest of council, there is a recommended purchase that administration has been working on for a number of months with respect to a new road grader for the city. This is a slightly unusual circumstance in that it is not a brand new machine, and the city has been looking at a few options with respect to this particular model, which is slightly used as a demo unit. And given the background that has been investigated, it is seen as a unit that would fit very well with and be comparable to the existing grader unit that the city currently owns and has owned since 2010. Recommendation that we are providing to council is that it approve the purchase of the 2015 Volvo grader for the amount of $297,000. There is the amount has been budgeted in the city's 2016 financial plan. The budgeted allowance for the grader was $400,000.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Warkentine. So what you're suggesting is that we could be saving upwards of $100,000
yes.
with this purchase. Okay, very good. Council, how would you like to proceed? Okay, sure. Go ahead, Councillor Fair.
To the administration, there are some options there regarding warranty. Is there any recommendations that the city Public Works foreman is recommending, like, experience with new equipment, some of the equipment is not a bad idea to buy extra warranty on that?
Yes, at this point, there are a number of options with this particular Volvo unit that are available. The dealer has given the city an option that should there be the desire to purchase the extended warranty, it can be done so at the end of 1 year. We are going to be considering that option at that time. But at the present time, it does come with a full 1-year warranty.
Thank you. How would council like to proceed? Councillor Fair.
I'll move to approve the purchase.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think our graders are aging, and with the prospective annexing that we're doing, I think that we're going to be needing some new equipment. I think the deal on this one is very, very good, and so I can support buying it for the price that's been offered here.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Question to administration.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Is this a replacement grader or is it an addition to the fleet?
No, this will be in addition to the fleet. Just as further background, the city of Steinbach also does rent a seasonal unit for approximately 5 months every winter. That seasonal rental will no longer be required. In the past, the rental has cost approximately $25,000. The anticipation is that in the future, as the existing rental unit is replaced with a newer model, that those rental fees would be increasing to between $40,000 to $50,000 per year for those 5 months of rental.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Further.
in favor of this purchase as well.
Thank you. Further discussion? Anything in closing? All right. Council, obviously you can see that a move like this may well save the city in excess of $100,000. In fact, it could save us more than that because of the rental rate that will be reduced from our budget. So I think this is a good move. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have the accounts payable in the back of the book. Can I have a motion to approve, please? Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Funk. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have bylaw 2069. This is rezoning on Provincial Trunk Highway 12 North. This is on page 10. Mr. Workentine.
This is an application for rezoning bylaw 2069 for property with a civic address of 110 PTH 12 North. This application is to rezone the subject property from A agriculture to C3 commercial corridor. Applicant is applying for the rezoning to permit the future commercial development on the site. If council is prepared to give first reading to this bylaw, the public hearing, or I'm sorry, the notices would be sent out with the anticipated public hearing to be scheduled for November the 1st.
Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Swagstra. Go ahead.
This is a motion to approve first reading. That means we can go to a public hearing. Anytime that anybody wants to develop highway frontage properties in Steinbach, we need to hear from the public, but I think it's positive to have more business development along that stretch.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to note as well that this is consistent with the designation that we already have in the official community plan, that's in terms of this area being commercial. So it certainly makes sense, and look forward to hearing what the public has to say at the hearing.
Thank you. Further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have bylaw 2070, residential capital development fee, page 17. Council, this is something that we discussed a week back at the Strategic Priority Committee. Mr. Workentine, anything further to add?
Not really. This, as you mentioned, was discussed more recently at committee. Recommendations from committee have been incorporated into the draft bylaw, and the proposal is to renew the residential capital development fee bylaw with a fee schedule for the next 3 years to the end of 2019.
Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra.
I'll make the motion for first reading.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Penner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important that we recognize the importance of affordability. And we have these capital development fees for a reason. We need, obviously, for new developments to be able to contribute towards the cost of the impact on the city. This goes towards things such as new sidewalks in the area. It goes toward transportation upgrades, fire services, all sorts of things that obviously these services that the new developments are going to receive. And the 2.5% increase is reflective of what the increase has been the last few years. So that way, the increases are not unreasonable, but rather approximately in line with the rate of inflation.
Thank you. Further discussion? Anything in closing? Council, obviously capital development fees are an important part of how we pay for larger infrastructure in neighborhoods and community-wide. And so I think it's appropriate for us to continue with this for the next 3 years with a 2.5% increase. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We'll move to 9D, Bylaw 2071, the non-residential capital development fee on page 23. Mr. Warkentine.
Similar to Bylaw 2070, this is also Bylaw 2071 related to the non-residential capital development fees. And again, the existing Bylaw 2045, the fee schedule related to that will be expiring at the end of 2016. Recommendation is to also renew the fee schedule for 3 years to the end of 2019 with an annual rate of increase of 2.5% per year.
Okay. Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Fair? Move to approve. Thank you. Second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's basically the same thing as we did just pass for the residential, and it's the same increase, and it's cost recovery. So, and it's gone up. It's going up the same as what it has the last 3 years. So, consistent.
Thank you. Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add a bit more, this is generally on the commercial side, but also a lot of the funds from this in the past have gone more to the transportation side to pay for our road improvements as well.
Thank you. Further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any questions of council? Councillor Siemens.
To this administration, through you, Mr. Mayor. Could we get an update on the Highway 12 and Penfield Road, the intersection project, just to snow is on its way at some point in the near future, and just what's any update on that intersection?
Based on information that I am aware of as of this week, there is asphalt work that is proceeding, I believe may have even started today, with expectation that the traveling lanes are planned to be completed either this week or middle of next week. There still are additional other components to the project with respect to street lighting, traffic signals, etc. And I believe that the project completion date is now set for the end of October. That should still give ample opportunity to have completion before the weather turns and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of council? Thank you. Then we'll move to the correspondence. We have 11A on page 29 from the Minister of Indigenous and Municipal Relations on 29. Take that as information. We have 11B correspondence in regards to street naming from Karen Toews on page 30. Council wish to take any action? Councillor Fair?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think it's notable that Mr. Cornelius Toews was one of the original pioneers to the community. He was one of the scouts, if I could call it that, when that first settled here, inspected the land to locate here. And I think it would be, I don't know what exactly the process would be, but I think it would be not a bad idea to give consideration to that there would be some sort of recognition, whether it be in a street name or something like that. I don't know if the developers might be encouraged to consider naming something after a pioneer, but I'm not making that a motion, but I think it'd be something that we might want to consider.
All right. The question, I guess that brings us to a question, and that is, Mr. Workentine, right now developers themselves come up with names for streets that are developed.
They do.
Would there be any consideration to make a suggestion to any future developers to incorporate this? Or is that something that, how does that fit into?
Perhaps what a reasonable option would be is to forward on Ms. Toews' request to some members of the local developer community that may want to wish to consider that. And if there is that desire, and if there is some additional history that might be directly applicable to any particular parcel of land, possibly the developers could make that decision at the time that they are developing.
So you think it is appropriate for you as administration to do that in the near future?
I could see that being done in the near future, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I almost feel like I have a conflict of interest with this, as this is my son's great-great-great-grandfather.
There you go.
But no relation to me. All right. 11C, we have the correspondence from Tracy McDonald in regards to sidewalks on page 31. Sorry, sidewalks on Albert Street. Council, any action you wish to take at this moment? Councillor Swagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to administration. Has Albert Street ever been considered for a sidewalk? It's certainly one of our established streets, and we know the challenges that we experience when putting sidewalks in established neighborhoods. Has this street ever been considered, and at any point in the past?
Not to my knowledge. The area in particular tended to be fairly isolated up until the development to the east with the extension of Stonebridge Crossing was initially developed beginning in the early 2000s. One item to note too is with the primary health care center that is still under construction and the fact that Stonebridge Crossing and the extension to the southern leg where it connects to Lowen Boulevard is not yet open. So there may very well be an increased traffic load in that neighborhood as a result. But with that project being completed in the near future, and with the road opening happening in the future, that may change traffic flows again, and there may not be quite the concern that is presently being experienced.
Yeah. Or perhaps there may be more.
Or there may be more.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my suggestion would be that this is something that we can monitor, that we can consider for a future sidewalk as a possibility, depending on how traffic flow is. I mean, it's. I noticed that the individual here has suggested, that they're willing to, canvass the neighborhood to find out how much support there'd be. That would be certainly interesting. It would be interesting to know, but. Certainly, if there is an area that needs a sidewalk, I'm not opposed to considering it, but let's make sure that we have our information first. So.
Yeah. Mr. Workentine.
Yeah, just one other bit of background. There was an extensive sidewalk development program in that neighborhood, I believe it was about 5 years ago. And until that point, Stonebridge Crossing did not have any sidewalk, and that does exist today. So there has been an increase in the level of service for the neighborhood fairly recently, and it's more just for background for your information.
Yeah, both Maplewood and Stonebridge, there were extensive additions to sidewalks, and yeah. Councillor Fair.
I guess, Mr. I agree that we need to keep this on our radar. Although I think with our pathways there, it's just like a block over. And people that are going to be walking from the healthcare center, they do have a avenue to take besides Albert Street. So I still think it's not a bad idea to keep it, on the radar and just monitor it for the future.
Mr. Workman, just refresh our memory in regards to our budget. I know we do have a regional pathway component in our budget. We do have a sidewalk renewal portion in our budget. We also have a sidewalk in new sidewalks in specifically with the capital development fees. I know in the past we had a portion, was it 50,000 approximately, for additional sidewalks development in established areas that had not been part of the fee structure. Is that, I'm sorry, I don't remember if that's still there.
Not quite. Actually, the formula that was historically used by the city of Steinbach before there was the current level of capital development fees is sidewalk projects for specific neighborhoods such as this one. The expectation was it was a 50-50 cost share, where 50% of the cost was expected to be borne by the benefiting property owners, and the remaining 50% was a debt issue over the city at large.
Yeah.
This would be one of those older neighborhoods that formula from the way the development has historically happened would continue or be applicable.
And in fact, the Maplewood Stonebridge sidewalks were on the 50-50 grant model. There were sidewalks put in near the Stony Brook Middle School in that area about 5 or 7 years back. That was under a different model, wasn't it?
That particular project, I cannot recall.
Can't remember either. Okay. Well, let's look into it and let's monitor it.
Sure.
Yeah. Good.
Do you want a motion?
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we have administration provide us with the report with the costs, potential costs, and background, so that we can potentially, if we have to, put it into the 2017 budget.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Swagstra. Go ahead.
The issue here isn't the fact that there are sidewalks on Maplewood or the bike path that runs along the creek. The issue here is the people who live on Albert Street getting off of their yards down the street. And now they would like a sidewalk because their street is busy, and it is a busier street now due to the increased traffic of the residential area. So I think it would be prudent for us to at least get a report, understand the costs and ramifications, and whether it's even possible and feasible to put a sidewalk there that would make sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support the motion. I think it makes sense to get the information, and we do have some established neighborhoods like this one that don't have sidewalks, and we're gradually sort of making a difference in that in terms of putting in sidewalks in as many places as we can. And obviously for future neighborhoods, this is not an issue because it's now built into the development fee, those fees that we're charging, that we just talked about. So this won't be a problem in future neighborhoods, but in the established ones, this is still an issue and we should consider it. And if it falls under the 50-50 funding formula, then it would also be important to gauge whether people on the street would support it if there's a cost component with it. So I think that's important information to get out as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 11D, we have correspondence from the Haven Group in regards to development fee rebate request on page 32. There's the request. I did also ask the administration to have the old seniors housing program that we have here. This is something that is similar but not exactly the same as what is being requested here. Mr. Workentine, can you tell us the difference between what they're requesting and how that could possibly fit in to the old program if it was renewed, or the challenges that there are there?
I believe based on the letter that has been provided by the Haven Group, while the proposal is to develop 55-plus housing, it does relate to seniors housing. However, based on the existing program for grant funding that has been approved by Council in the past, that grant program was a key requirement was that the projects be, I wouldn't say sponsored, but confirmed by Southern Health that the facility is actually an assisted living or supportive housing project that is approved by the provincial government. To my knowledge, this expansion proposal by the Haven Group does not fit that criteria, so that would be a consideration that I would suggest Council may want to consider.
Okay. Thank you.
Decision.
Council, Councillor Speicher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think something that's important for us to consider is that we obviously want more seniors housing in Steinbach. we need to be targeted in terms of where do we have the most effective use of city tax dollars. We clearly want more personal care home beds, and the city's already made a commitment in that regard for city contribution. We want more, certainly, assisted living and supportive care, because there's that higher level of support, and we've had programs that are specifically for that. From what I'm reading on here, it's specifically 55 plus, like regular housing. And I would have a concern about going down the road of giving a grant for a regular 55 plus housing, because it's not supportive, it's not assisted living or supportive care. It's regular housing. And there's a lot of housing within Steinbach that could potentially fall within that category that could open us up. So I would have a caution in that regard. That's because of the fact that it opens up a type of senior housing funding that we haven't done before, and we're already contributing significant amounts to these other areas that we've targeted.
Thank you. I think it raises an important point of clarification from the Haven Group as to actually their full intention with this facility. So, what I would suggest, Council, and is that we communicate back to them in regards to the parameters that we had set out for our previous program and the challenges that they would have in meeting those parameters, and that get them to clarify whether there's supportive housing or assisted living in this facility. Are you generally comfortable with doing that? Yeah. Thank you. Yes? Okay. Then we will do that, and we will wait for their reply. There's no other business. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Fair, second by Councillor Penner. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.